Welcome to this month's Challenge Hour. It is a marketing takeover with our wizard of marketing, Hayley Maisie. Hayley runs her own consultancy, Maisie Marketing, and she has looked after the Free Spirits marketing since March. So way back before we were even thinking launch date, Hayley's been looking after it. So she knows the L&D industry. She knows an awful lot about marketing because my marketing is absolutely banging and that's all down to Hayley. So it makes a lot of sense to get Hayley in to talk marketing and to answer any questions that you've got about how do you market yourselves, how do you market your product, how do you, run campaigns and all of that kind of thing. So hi, Hayley.
Hi, Kim. Hello, everyone.
In the back end as well, Mark is going to be looking after chat. So if you've got any questions, this isn't a webinar type thing. This is, backwards and forwards between all of us, asking you questions, giving answers to each other, any challenges that you've got, just speak up. If you want to add anything as well, you can add it into chat or, just raise your hand so we're not interrupting each other. So without further ado, who wants to quiz Hayley first?
It's scary, actually. I didn't think it would be as scary as this, but yeah, I'm ready. Go.
Can I just actually, yes, Joe, just
That's
before
right.
before we
go
come
first.
to you, how many
want to leave Hayley
years?
hanging? That was all.
How many years have you been doing marketing for, Hayley? Just to get that in there.
I started in a marketing and events assistant role back in 2004, so over 20 years now. I'm a chartered marketer and I went self-employed in 2017. So my experience in my employed roles were across e-learning, education and digital marketing. So yeah, a fair amount of time now.
Isn't it scary when you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this 20 years.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It reminds me how old I am, and I try and forget that. So thank you for that. Thank you, Kim.
Very welcome. I'm with you in that though. I've been in L&D nearly 20 years, so I'm with you there. Okay, Joe, go.
How is marketing in L&D different or not from marketing in other areas, other sectors, other industries?
I think what I've noticed more so in L&D than other sectors is the lead-in time that's needed for people to make decisions from point of needing a solution, a learning solution, be it from a learning tech provider or from an L&D consultant, to the actual point of confirmation. It's a long lead-in. And so for me, marketing is so important when it comes to selling in a learning solution as such, because you're having to take people on a journey and you know how long that journey is. So that's the main thing that I've noticed, particularly with business to business marketing as well. It's not a quick from point of what I would call attraction to the point of close when you're talking about a sale. It's quite a lengthy process.
What do we typically say for our events when we're marketing our Free Spirit events? It's about 6 weeks minimum that we like to have it on the site so we can get the marketing planned in.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there's a lot of noise to cut through with any kind of marketing. And so what you're trying to do is keep front of mind for people. So with a webinar, for example, a good 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to get the people like me that book in the webinar straight when they see it. So they don't forget, it's in the diary and there it is. Whereas you might get someone a couple of hours before that want to book on. But it's being front of mind over the course of that period and explaining to people why they should attend, what they're going to get from it, what are the benefits. No different than if you were marketing an L&D course or if you were marketing your learning solution. You're using that period of time to almost communicate the benefits. But not everyone's going to see it at that one point in time. So the more you do it and the more you integrate it, the more it will sink into people's minds that it's happening.
I've got a couple of questions, which they're related. I think they're related. So as a freelancer, you've got to cut through a lot of noise as well. So how do you do that as a freelancer? And I'll leave that as a general hanging question, because the more specific one is, when you've been a freelancer or you've been around for a fair bit, like I have, you picked up lots of skills and you don't necessarily fit into any of the boxes that people want to put you in. How do you get that message across without it just being generic and bland?
So for me, if you're a self-employed bod, a solopreneur, however you want to call it, a freelancer, it's very much about raising awareness of your personal brand as to who you are. Mm-hmm. And not only are you sharing your expertise, but you're sharing your character as well as your experience, what you know, and how you can help someone. So the marketing side tends to flip, and it to be more about how you help people and what you know and how that can help them solve their problem. So whilst you may have all of these skills that you've built over periods of years, and you've got this knowledge and this experience, actually what hasn't changed over that time is how you help somebody overcome their challenge, how you help them solve their pain points. And that's where you would focus. So what value can you bring to your potential client, or to your target audience is the jargon, how you can help them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It still doesn't help cut through the noise, because there is so much out there.
I think with the noise, I think it's all about consistency. Say if you took LinkedIn, for example, and you were to post once a month, you're not really retaining much consistency for people to find out who you are and the stories that you're telling and how you're helping people. So I think with marketing, it's not sales, and it's very much building a picture, or building a story of who you are, so that you cut through the noise in such a way that it becomes more natural rather than shouting. So you're keeping that consistency when it comes to social posts, or if you decided to start an email marketing list and push out communications that way, you will attract more of a following if you're consistent with what you do. If it's stop-start, you're losing that trust with people. So you cut through the noise by maintaining that trust and building that consistency.
And that's not just posting either, it's commenting, liking, interacting with other people, that because they'll then interact with yours as well. What is it?
Exactly that.
3 posts a week, something like that, minimum? 2 to 3?
Well, actually, what I advise people is what's comfortable for them to maintain. If that's 2 posts a week, if that's 3 posts a week, if it's 5 posts a week, just maintain what you are comfortable with keeping up with, because you kind of create a rod for your own back if you can't. And so, whether it be social posts, emails, whether it be attending events, or whether it be networking, it's just keeping it going so that you become almost part of other people's conversations, part of their world, so that they kind of know exactly who you are if you bumped into them at an event, or if you commented on one of their posts, for example, and create a conversation.
And Joe's put something in the chat. She says, if you want to build your personal brand, perhaps write for the training journal, because Joe is the editor. And
she's very good tip there.
How to contribute to training journal. And Glynis has asked, do you have any hints or tips, Joe, on what you're looking for or what makes a good article?
Absolutely don't want to take over Hayley's session.
Go, Joe. Go.
And anything Hayley had said or says will probably work for TJ as well, because she's so immersed in what she does. I'd say have a look at that contributing to TJ page, because it will probably answer everything you want. What I say to people is, I want your experience, your point of view, your personality. I can edit your material, don't worry about that. I can look at full stops and commas and get those wrong too. That's my job. But I can't know what you know. And this goes to that point that Hayley's making about your personal branding. I'm keen to get your expertise out to our audience. And we've got 13,000 people a month that visit the website and social media and blah, blah, blah. It's all on that page, I think. Might need to update that. But it's just one way. There are other websites out. There's Training Industry, there's Training Zone, you've got your own blog, and other people that you might want to contribute to as well as LinkedIn. So it's one way to get out there. But definitely do it about your niche and what you want to be doing, the clients you want to work with, the work you want to do. Because to me, that's the point. When I'm looking for speakers for a conference, which I sometimes do, I go to their LinkedIn page, their website, I look up what they've published. It's like, oh, interesting article on topic X. I wonder if they'd speak on topic whatever for the conference. So that's just my little two penneth worth.
So you don't have any specific topics that you're looking for at the moment then, Joe?
No, I don't tend to do a feature forward list, is what that's called, because I figured if I decided, right, June next year I'm doing AI, that, you know, that would be a really rubbish thing to do, because that's what we used to do years ago. You'd sort of go, okay, January's leadership, February's, you know, whatever it might be. So I just publish a range of topics at different times, and I try to make sure I don't have, you know, 3 leadership articles on the trot or something. But I try and make sure it's a little bit more organic than that. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And Alan had did you have a question as well? Do you want to add to that, Alan?
Yeah, back to Haley's earlier point about cutting through the noise and telling a story. And I find those to be in conflict. My website, I thought, told a really nice story. And then people told me, well, you don't grab me in the first 8 seconds, so I'm not going to read the story.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The recommendation now is to put like 4 pain points up as bullets and say, if you got this problem, we can help you. Instead of what it's in there, but you have to read maybe for a minute to find it.
Yeah.
What's your suggestion on how much do you have to really cut it down to 8 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 minutes? Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on the channel or the platform that you're communicating through. So, for example, with a website, people will have typically either found you from a search or from another piece of content or communication you've put out. So when they hit your site, you do have very limited time to get across what you do and why and who for, otherwise they're gone. When it comes to, say, a LinkedIn post, for example, you want to grab their attention, say, with the first line, with a hook, I would say, but you're more likely to get them to read on if you're creating a little bit of a story with it, with a kind of more, not a motive message, but more of a reason as to why you're posting. With content, with blog posts, it's kind of more longer form than a LinkedIn post. Email marketing is very different. An email, you are kind of straight away, you have to hit home with that subject line, either intrigue or exactly what it is for people to open it. So going back to your site, yes, you probably had a really good story there that people could tap into, but if they don't know from that homepage straight off exactly that this is what they need at that point, then yeah, you'll lose them. And it could be that that story is something that you actually build into the pages partway through what I would call the customer journey. So they've hit your website. Yes, it's for them. Where are you going to take them next to make them feel reassured and to develop that trust that you are who they need? So you pull them through your site, and eventually your story is probably, I would say, the last page before you direct them to contact you, because you've hooked them in enough that they've then understood so much more that they go, yes, okay, this is the person that I need to speak to. So to answer your question very quickly, it depends on the platform that you're using and at what point in the journey they're at of what they've kind of seen before. So it will be different for each channel.
Thank you. That's really good.
So does that, so that whole grab them with a hook, get them in, get them reading the story, and then it's kind of creating that emotional connection. You can solve my problem. You can do this for me. You know, I'm invested in the story and, you know, relating to it or whatever. Does that also follow the same pattern when you're doing your LinkedIn posts? So you've got your hook, your story content, and then your call to action almost.
Yeah, and again, this differs from, say, a company page to, say, a personal profile. So a company page is very kind of, it can either be we, us, our, or it could be Kim does this, Hayley's doing that. It allows you to kind of hide behind the brand a little bit so that you could be a little bit more salesy with it, but you don't have to necessarily have that hook because you're almost showcasing what you do. But definitely with your LinkedIn profile, with any posts that you're putting out, that see more like little hints that LinkedIn gives. You have 2 or 3 lines really to play with, a bit like a subject line within an email. To those 2-3 lines are what grabs their attention. So you have to be quite clever with it, because you know what it's like when you're scrolling through a feed. Unless something grabs you, or it's a nice picture of someone or a cat or a puppy or whatever, you're not going to look at it because your time is precious, right? You need to grab people instantly. So yes, I would consider that kind of hook, and then more of a story-like piece. Doesn't have to be very long, but you're kind of explaining, if you're trying to explain why you do what you do, provide a real life story with it. And then what I would call the jargon is a call to action at the end of that post. So what do you want people to do from reading it? You just want them to be aware of who you are. You don't necessarily need to take them to another page or to comment or do anything else, but you might want to say, oh, what's your opinion? Or what do you think? Or let me know in the comments, or sign up here. So there is a structure that you can adopt, but those first 2-3 lines are what put people in.
Joe's commented that on LinkedIn, when she might get interested in a post and then discover it's huge when you click to open it and it's too long.
Yep.
But articles on LinkedIn are different. Joe, they're more like blog posts. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, I think with an article, it's like I'm clicking on an article, I'm ready to, I've opened the magazine and I'm ready for a whole page of text or 2 or whatever it might be. Whereas a post, and maybe it's just me, but I kind of think it's going to be maybe a few paragraphs. And then all of a sudden it kind of goes off the bottom of my screen. It's like, I haven't signed up for this. I signed up for a post, a chat. I didn't sign up for a 3-hour deep conversation. That's
if you've got that much to say, do a bloody video.
Yeah, or a post or something like that. So that for me is about the detail of your platform and where you're putting which message, I think.
Yeah, and Joe also mentioned in the chat that on Training Journal, she thinks in terms of headline to grab people, and then the story below that, which is what you've just been saying, Hayley. Hey,
all right, I'll take either. Take variations as well.
Can I ask a question about LinkedIn? So I used to post lots of links to my blog posts, my personal articles on my website. And I've discovered recently, well, in the last few months, that those just get no traction whatsoever. And LinkedIn seems to be focusing on content that it hosts, whether it's images, videos, Canvas, slideshow things, whatever. So what's the best way using LinkedIn to get people to my website?
Okay, so there are tricks, and then there's kind of an approach. So some tricks you can do. You're absolutely right. LinkedIn wants to keep you within its platform. It doesn't want you to go to an external page. So if it spots a URL within your post, when the thumbnail comes up, it will almost, I can never remember the right word, kind of like it will depress, or it will reduce the reach of your post. So it doesn't like URLs. So the way to get around that is you could create an image and you could tease the post, and you could even put the URL in the comments, or you could go back in, you can edit the post and you can add the URL in so that LinkedIn thinks, oh, there's no URL here, it's okay. You used to get, what's the word? Kind of criticized by LinkedIn's algorithm for doing that, for editing a post within kind of the first 5-10 minutes. From what I've read, that's not a thing anymore. So you can go back in, you can edit it. The actual approach that might be better is to take your blog post and think of 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts that could branch out from it to create a bit of discussion. So that actually don't fire people straight off to the blog post, but you kind of warm them up and either create some discussion within LinkedIn, which would be favored because you're keeping people on the platform, or you're kind of posing a bit of a quote to it. And then your third post could be one where you actually do push people to the blog post. So there's no right or wrong, and it's worth just testing it to see what impressions you get or what kind of feedback you get from within the post. But it's really, really tricky to get people back to your site. But this is where, for me, the marketing long haul kind of comes in, of that consistency, raising brand awareness, so much so that once people have seen your post, they will go to your profile and they will click on your site to learn more, because you've done enough to build that trust and keep front of mind.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the problem with the two technical solutions you put, like editing the post or adding comments, is they don't work with the schedule posts. You've then got to remember that you've got to go and fix that once the post is published.
Yeah, and I think schedule posts are really tricky, and something I've learned is when you schedule a post and it goes out, LinkedIn knows that you haven't been on the platform around that period of time when you've posted, and it really likes to see that for 10-15 minutes either side of a post that you've put out that you've been active, and the algorithm favors that. So it is really hard when you're busy, because I do recommend you schedule posts to ensure you've got something out there, but yeah, you almost need to remember to go back in or to do a little bit around the time of the post going out. Otherwise, yeah, LinkedIn won't favor that approach either. So I have a real love-hate relationship with LinkedIn's algorithm. Yeah.
I think the algorithm has got a little bit kinder more recently, because it used to be super, super strict. It used to absolutely tank your posts if you edited them at all, didn't it? I played around with the free spirit ones. I played around with adding the external links within the post and in the comments, and I didn't see a difference in the reach. So it may be that they've given the algorithm a little bit of a tweak on that side. But then they're both external leaks, so maybe it's just crap reach for both of them.
I think this is the thing. You might want to compare, a post with a video or a post with an image, which I believe will favor more for LinkedIn's algorithm than it would if you put in a URL, whichever way.
And it likes images of people for some reason.
Yeah, it does. And actually, it's not a bad thing every now and again to throw in a selfie. I know that they're an Instagram favorite. I get it. But every now and again, for people to see your face, it's not a bad thing. It's when you do it too much that it gets a bit ick, and you're like, oh, come on. But,
every post.
Yes, that's a bit much.
So if you put a URL in a picture, in an image, LinkedIn won't see that?
LinkedIn won't see that. I don't believe that it can read text within an image. I could be proved wrong, but it's not necessarily going to allow people to click through, but it will give people the URL. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's cool.
So I've got a question about having a marketing scheduler. So it's off the back of what we talked about earlier with Joe's, with the TJ stuff, and choosing what you're going to do throughout the year, hitting different points, because for us, there are certain things happening during the year that we know are going to happen, the expos, conferences, learning at work week. So there's these things that are known. Would you recommend as a company, so not our own personal things, but as a company, as a brand, that we should have a marketing scheduler and actually plan forward what we're going to be doing and theming it and things like that? Do you think that is a good idea when you're a freelancer, or is it more for the company page posts? Or what do you think?
So I recommend a marketing scheduler to any type of small business. The amount of detail that you include on it will be based on the person that's going to be using it. And I think if you are a freelancer, having one actually structures your efforts and your activity so that you know what you're doing from week to week. I have one for me, and I initially created one as if I were doing it for a business. And I learned quite quickly I couldn't keep up with that. That's just way too much. Like, it's overwhelmed for me. It was complete overload. So for any clients I work with who are freelance, I recommend creating one, and I produce a framework for them, but keep it really simple. You know, if you're going to post to LinkedIn and you're only going to post a few times a week, okay, make allowances for that. If you're going to have a blog post, make an allowance for that, so that you can start to punch in what's going to go live, when it's going to go live, how that integrates with an event you might be speaking at, or a particular awareness week, and just keep it simple. But the structure and the planning is so important, whatever size business you are. And it's that element that I think can get forgotten. And that's when you start to put things out, or you start to do things that has got no rhyme or reason behind it, and it will show. So yes, marketing scheduler is so useful for any size business, but make it within, you know, the context of the size of your business. Don't try and go all out, because you won't be able to keep up with it.
Do you have any tools that you recommend to do that schedule, or do you just use a spreadsheet?
Yes, I mean, I use a spreadsheet personally, because it allows you to, even if you used a Google Sheet, it allows anyone to be able to see it. So if you're working in a team, everybody has visibility of it. That doesn't mean to say that something like Asana or Trello could help you as well, and you can convert that into a calendar format. It's whatever is going to work for you. Most freelancers I work with don't necessarily have the budget to pay for a platform to give you all the kind of, you know, bells and whistles. So a spreadsheet actually works for them just as well. You may want to do it in a paper notepad. You know, it doesn't matter really what it is, as long as it works for you, and you can keep up with it. But yeah, there are many tools out there. If predominantly, for example, your communications were via social media, then you could use Buffer, or you could use Hootsuite or anything like that would allow you to manage it. But that doesn't necessarily allow you to integrate it with other types of marketing. So again, yeah, it depends on what marketing strategies, and by that I mean email marketing or social media marketing or event marketing, what you use for your business.
I'd be lost without our spreadsheet though. You know, because Free Spirits posts like 5 days a week, usually. We've got something going out every weekday. And the stuff from my personal account is more, oh, I'll do a post on that. So it's not targeted. So that my personal one is scatty, and I could do with having a bit of a schedule for my personal one, but I'm not that organized. But it's like, if we get an event, a course, webinar, a blog post, anything like that, when that gets put into the planner, Hayley's then, right, okay, let's look back. When are we doing the posts? And then I can go in and sometimes get 2 weeks ahead, scheduling all of my LinkedIn stuff. And it's kind of a bit relaxing, because I think when you're posting relentlessly, it can be super overwhelming, because it's like you wake up, you're like, I've got to do my social post, I've got to do this, got to do that, I've got to check the time so it's not within 24 hours, because that's another thing, right? Remember the post, was it last month or something, and I'd put on there something, Hayley's gonna shout at me for posting twice in a day, because that can hurt the algorithm as well, can't it? Like, how often?
This totally annoys me with LinkedIn, because you may want to post twice in a day because you've got something you want to share, but it penalizes you. That's the word. It penalizes you if you were to post more than once within 24 hours. So what I tend to do with my own posts, and what I do for clients' posts, is start from a Monday through to the end of the week. And if you're going to schedule them or put them out, start in the morning, mid-morning, lunchtime, afternoon, late afternoon. You can't go wrong. You will never then schedule a post more than once in a day. It's really frustrating because I just think it controls what you do and how you communicate. But if you're from a business perspective wanting to broaden your reach as much as possible, LinkedIn's algorithm will dampen that. I've seen you putting in a post, sorry, Mark, from Joe.
And that's super annoying if you're at a conference or an event or something, because you want to be like, oh, I've just seen this amazing thing. But I suppose that's where X comes in, or, you know, I mean, people aren't really using X as much as they were a couple of years ago, but that's more for the instant updates rather than, you know,
it's I think X is kind of a little bit lost, to be honest. I don't think people really know what to do with X anymore, and I think people are a little bit lost with Threads. They don't really know what to do with that either. Threads is trying to be the old Twitter, but it's not quite there yet. But what it used to do, that particular platform gave you that kind of real time opening to just say whatever you wanted at any point in time, and it was brilliant for events or for narrating certain things. If you were watching a webinar, you know, it was great. You had a hashtag, you could follow the conversation. LinkedIn doesn't allow for that as much anymore. Insta stories do, but you won't find all your audience on Instagram either. So yeah, I find it really frustrating. I think it's a real shame, and the limited posts within a day, those 2 posts within 24 hours, reposts count as that as well. So you could put out a post and then you hit repost. And again, what you'll find is probably the next post that you put out, if it's within 24 hours, you won't get much reach on it. So actually have a look and do a bit of testing as you do this and see what you find. But if I do a hell of a load of reposts, I then tend to just call it for a couple of days, almost let the algorithm reset, and then I start again. But
I'm super particular about reposting, you know, because I know that if I do that, that's me out for a day.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that about reposts at all.
Yeah, whereas a comment actually gives you that same say exposure, but it also helps the other person's post to give their post exposure, but you still can be seen with comments. So if, say, you've hit your limit for your posts within a day, start commenting and start getting engaged in conversation, because that will still appear in people's feeds. And this is quite a salesy approach of kind of working LinkedIn, but it is all about building your personality, building brand awareness, being part of a conversation, and being a person and networking as well. It's just how much you decide to do of it, whether you're happier sharing or whether you're happier contributing or doing both.
So
what's the difference between if you like and comment, because I'm just thinking on the back of what Joe's saying, if you like and comment versus repost with a comment?
So there's 2 ways of looking at this. So a comment is all about that person's post, and obviously it's going to then appear in your feed because you have commented on it, and it will come up. Joe has commented or Kim has liked this post. In terms of the repost, you've got those 2 options. One, repost instantly, and what that does is it really works in favor of the person that has written that post, because it gives them a bit of oomph, and it's that post that's been given that engagement. When you hit repost with thoughts, what you're actually doing is kind of feeding your own feed, to be honest, because it's a standalone post that starts again with that engagement. The person where the post originated will kind of get a little bit of love from the algorithm, because LinkedIn knows that someone has shared it and it's worth sharing. So it might appear in more people's feeds by doing that. But what you've kind of done is you've almost created a separate kind of line of engagement with your own post by adding in your own comments. But it could be that original post you're wanting to take a bit further and generate a different sort of discussion with it, and so it worked brilliantly for adding your own thoughts. So just be mindful of that with how you're sharing things, that it's not all about you. Actually, it's about the substance and the content of that post, and why it would be a benefit to your feed rather than you creating a post for you, if that makes sense.
So where are the platforms, or where are the communities these days for that narration of events and things like that? In the education world, they seem to be you heading towards Blue Sky. A lot of people are on Mastodon, but
Yeah.
it's a bit too techy.
Yeah.
You know, where do people go these days? You know, if it's not X, and blogs and RSS seem to be disappeared out the window now.
Yeah.
So what
Cool kids are doing TikTok, Mark.
The
I'm not doing
TikTok.
I can't dance.
I think, I mean, an immediate platform, yeah, TikTok, Instagram stories are a way of being able to share as much as you want, as many times as you want. You will still get penalized a little bit if you did loads of them, but it's a real-time way of sharing what you're doing in the moment at any moment in time. But something to think about, whether it be X, Twitter, or Blue Sky, you know, in a way, you're almost kind of just diluting and splintering. If you were on all of them, you know, you can't keep up with them all. And it really does depend where your audience is. So I haven't got an answer for you, Mark, in terms of where are people now with the real-time kind of posting, because I don't think there is a platform where the majority of people are. I think they're kind of splintered across all these different platforms. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would actually think about where your audience is and master that one channel or master that one platform, rather than worrying about how do I get around a problem that is yet to be solved. I kind of wish LinkedIn had the capabilities of Instagram to allow you to have a post that just appears for a few hours, that real-time messaging. It did trial it, but yeah, I don't think it sat well, so it doesn't do it. So
that was a conversation we had very early on. Which social channels are we going to target? And for us, it was doing LinkedIn initially, and then when I go to the US expansion, then starting to hit up Facebook, because there's a lot of instructional designers or transitioning teachers on Facebook from the US. So that might be a channel for you as well, Alan, hitting the Facebook side, because it makes sense when it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think if you were starting out, so if we took it that you were starting your business, and it really look as to what your business does and who it helps. If you were, say, targeting schools or charities, Facebook is a great platform. If you're something where you're going to have a lot of, I know it sounds really silly, but say if you can share a lot of imagery and a lot of stuff that you do where you're working with people and you're speaking at events and things like that, you've got a lot of fodder for Instagram and for LinkedIn. I think what people do is sometimes, like when we chatted, Kim, we'd be chatting about, well, what are the best platforms for L&D Free Spirits? I think there's a danger where people go on all of them, and actually it's so much effort and so much time to tweak every post to target that particular platform that you end up you can't keep up with it, and then you end up doing things not very well at all. But yeah, it totally depends on the audience. So your American audience, there could be, opportunity that we can, take it elsewhere. But yeah, there's danger you can do too much too quickly on too many platforms.
Joe, can you dig into your comment you just made about using
Sorry, I know Glynis as well has got a question as well.
Oh, sorry, Glynis.
We'll jump back to you as well, Glynis. Go on, Joe.
Sorry, I thought you were going with Glynis. So I was saying, for when we go to a real event, live events, sometimes with TJ, I get people to put stuff on Twitter or X mostly. Like in the moment, here's a picture, X says this at a conference, whatever. Some people prefer LinkedIn. That's their platform of choice. And what I generally suggest is they do like one post that says, hi, I'm here today, follow for more updates, rather than doing lots of posts, especially because that feeds into what Hayley was just saying, but that they add comments. So you've got a whole thread of their day, their experience. But also I think with the way that Twitter is now, it's not actually about what goes on the day that you share on Twitter. It used to be everybody was in on the hashtag and on the back channel, and even if you weren't there, you were living it vicariously. And that isn't the case now. I think Twitter is pretty much dead, quite frankly, if you ask me. And so therefore, actually, what I find is it's more about, well, what do I do with that afterwards? Can I capture that data usually run it through AI to come up with an article or a summary or something, or just do it manually by hand is, you know, absolutely fine too. And it's doing something with that content afterward, or using it to reflect on yourself and maybe linking to a couple of things. That's how I tend to use that. I'll see if I can find an example, but does that answer your question, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hi Hayley. You mentioned earlier first steps, and I am very much in first steps, not freelancing yet, but hoping to next year. So I'm working on the who do I want to be working with, what do I actually do. I'm thinking based on this conversation that I'll stick with LinkedIn as a platform.
Yeah.
What else happens in those first steps, and what are the classic mistakes that I should avoid? I know it's a big question.
That's a great question.
It's a brilliant question. Okay, getting ready. So there's probably, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 things you can do, and it's incorporating the kind of strategic thinking. So definitely think about who it is that you're trying to help, and think about where they are and what it is that you offer them. What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What is it that you do that makes their life easier? And really sort of consider what markets that you're trying to kind of hit. So the person you're trying to talk to may not actually be part of the market of where you're trying to infiltrate.
It's almost the end customer and the person paying for it.
Exactly. You want to find the budget holder. But really, consider your why, consider your purpose. And this then leads on to you thinking very much about some people see it as a bad use of time. It's not, but to consider your vision, what big change you want to make in the world, your mission, what you're going to aim for, your purpose, so why you exist, and then really think about what it is that you offer to your customers. And it's that top level piece. If you can figure that out together with who you're trying to hit in terms of your audience, everything comes back to that. Whatever piece of content you create, whatever event you want to speak at, always comes back to you wanting to help those particular people solve their problem. So that would be a key thing. I would then do a little bit of research and look at who else is doing what you're doing. So kind of competitor analysis, but even if you came up with half a dozen or so, or less than that, it gives you a good benchmark, so that not only you can see what they're doing, but what do you like about what they're doing? What do you like about their marketing? What do you like about the way they communicate? How are you going to make yourself different? How are you going to stand out? What makes you more special than them? So there's a real research piece to be done around that, so that you position yourself as best you can. I'd also think about where your strengths are, the whole SWOT around your marketing as well. So you know really what to watch for. These are the pitfalls. So if you know that you're not very good at blogging, don't blog. If you're really good at vlogging, vlog. You know, there's kind of little whole black holes you don't want to go down. So just be really honest with yourself and think of it that way. And then kind of set yourself up and think longer term about what you want to achieve. So what are your business objectives? And, you know, just take a year, no more than that, especially if you're starting out. You might have to change it 6 months in because what you've prepared for hasn't worked, or you're not happy with it. But yeah, really think about what you want to achieve, and then think about how marketing can help you get there. So what do you need marketing to do to help you achieve your goals? And this won't happen overnight. It won't happen over a few days. This is a real journey to take yourself on. And it's quite, can be quite emotional. And I say that in the business world because business shouldn't be emotional. But when it's you as a freelancer, it really is, because you care about this. This is your baby. So yeah, certainly give this a good amount of time to get your ducks in a row. Does that help?
Very much so, yes.
Good.
I'm liking the idea that I can say I'm not going to vlog. I don't have to
Yes.
vlog. I did not do that.
No,
you don't.
Yeah.
No one's telling you to. Yeah, you're all good.
no. I mean, this is the thing. Haley has said to me how impactful doing a talking head video is, but I hate doing my own blooming talking head videos. But on a webinar, absolutely fine. And I could take a snippet from this, reuse it, absolutely fine. But put me in front of the camera and tell me to say stuff. I'm like, no, I'm
No.
fine, thanks.
I need
Even
an audience,
though
and then
exactly,
Yeah.
I need,
Mhm.
but yeah. So for me, I know that I should, but it's just, ugh, I hates it. I was even thinking of getting an AI avatar from Colossian of myself so I could just do them and cheat at it. But that probably won't have the same impact and I'll always be wearing the same thing. So yeah, probably not.
I guess that's that balance of integrity and this is me. And in a few years, society might have decided that that's acceptable, that's fine, or it might not.
Yep.
But we'll have clearer ideas of what is and isn't acceptable use of AI, I guess.
That's it.
Thank you.
But I know some people that do a lot of vlog posts, and yes, they come up in my feed. Do I always watch them?
Nope.
No. Am I more likely to look at somebody's slider
Mhm.
or to interact with a poll? Yes, I am, because I like to click things.
And I think this is a good point to make, is that when it comes to your marketing, and if you say, okay, vlog posts aren't a goer, that's absolutely fine. But do consider the variety of your marketing, that people communicate and people digest information in very different ways. And so, within the limitations of what you're comfortable with, really consider how you can repurpose and recycle content so that you put it in different formats that appeal to different people within your target audience. It's not always going to be a 600-word blog post. It could be a 2-3 sentence that grabs attention. It could be a slider that takes the main points from that blog post. But Kim's absolutely right. If she doesn't want to watch a video, she won't. She'll watch something else. So there's real benefit in you chunking up your content and your marketing activity to different types of format to appeal to all.
That's half my workload and double the amount of content I could potentially produce.
Pretty much.
Got
Yeah,
a list
it's
of
being
things that I
smart.
could write about.
Yeah.
And now I
Yeah.
can write about different formats. That's
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the duplicating content as well. Like Hayley was saying, if you've got a blog post or an article, you can maybe get 3 or 4 posts. But in 6 months' time, as long as you haven't dated something, revisit,
Yeah, completely. And if you keep it strategic, that the point being of going and looking at your target audience and how you help them solve their problems. If your content, what I would call content pillars, or your content themes, the things you want to write about, can synchronize with that and relate back to that, you really can't do anything wrong. You've got that structure there. It's then thinking about, okay, well, how do I then disseminate this throughout my blog, my site, LinkedIn, at events? And that's the structure and the planning of the marketing schedule. So it all starts to sort of come together as a toolkit.
And then tagging people helps a lot as well. Tagging people, tagging companies. Hashtags, that's on the fence, I think, on LinkedIn. But the post that I put on using a video created in Colossian and then tagging them, because I wanted to show a video that we had in the booster package. So tagged Colossian, I was like, this avatar was created using them. And that got a massive amount of views. And it was one of the standout posts of over that month. So it can help, but not if you spam tag.
Yeah, there's benefit to the people that you've tagged, particularly company pages, interacting with your post. And this is where, if you have a LinkedIn company profile, company platform page, and your own profile, you kind of can interact with the two, and you can share the content in different tones of voice, and you can interact with both, and you can tag both. So you can get some real bites of the cherry there for very little effort. As Kim says, you're utilizing who you're tagging, even if it's just you and your own company page.
There were a few interesting comments in the chat, all from Joe. And she says, going back to that workflow you were just mentioning, that AI is really good for streamlining that process, from changing content from one format to a different format. But then there's also a couple of links that she's put in of articles that are on Training Journal that were created by AI or with Joe's editing, and from tweets and things that were, so the AI has summarized it, created the initial article, Joe's gone and edited it. So worth having a look at those too.
I've got them in my reading list already. Thank you. We've got just over 5 minutes left. Hasn't that gone quick?
Nice.
So before we finish up, does anybody else have any burning questions or need any clarification on things?
Probably not a burning question, but one little thing. If there's something that makes you cringe when you see people doing it, what is one thing not to do?
In what regard? When it comes to LinkedIn or blog writing, or
probably more with LinkedIn or blog writing?
What gives you the ick?
Yeah, that's it.
Self-righteous posts for me. I'm like, ugh.
Oh, I'll stop then.
Rein it in, Mark. I think the ick is when you can see a post that has been fabricated so much and it becomes so salesy that it's not natural. And this is someone that is really trying hard to try and get across what it is they do, to try and build some business, that you can see it a mile off, particularly if they've used ChatGPT to create the message. That gives me the ick as well, because I think, okay, I appreciate you're trying to streamline your efforts and you're trying to, cut down time, but it doesn't take too long just to make it in your own voice. So yeah, I think don't be too salesy, don't try too hard with it, and don't post for the sake of it, because that's often what comes with that type of post, is someone's posting for the sake of it. When it comes to blogging, very similar thing, really. I would say you can see when someone's done it for the sake of it. Don't put something out just because you haven't put something out inside a week. You've not got anything good to say, don't say anything.
But try and help, don't try and
I think a really clever thing to remember with marketing, it's not about you. It's about the person you're trying to help. It's about the person that's either reading the email, that is reading that post, that has that problem, that has that challenge. So when you do put something out, just read it back and go, okay, I know I'm saying I'm going to this event, or I know I'm saying I'm doing this speaking session, but how is my presence, or how is my speaking opportunity going to help the person who I meet, or the person that is listening to me? And it's just turning that around, really, so that you don't make it about you.
Thank you.
I think that goes into the call to action at the end as well. It's, yes, I'm going to this event. If you want to grab a cup of tea, if you go in, give me a shout. We'll meet up and say hi. So it's to them. Sorry, Eleanor, cut you off.
I was just going to say it's a really good session. I've learned a lot. I want to thank
I'm pleased.
I've
enjoyed it. And thank you for being so upfront with your questions. Sometimes people get worried that it's going to be a silly question, or that it's going to come across dumb sounding, and it's never the case. So thank you for being so open.
Yeah, it's been fabulous. I think for me, one of the biggest realizations that I've had this year, working with Hayley, working on an actual brand marketing, rather than, because my marketing for Go Ginger, my freelance business, has been sporadic at best, is just what an impact nailing the messaging can have. So my Go Ginger company page, I set that up 7 years ago when I established the business, and I've got 30-40 followers. The LinkedIn page for Free Spirits, set that up at Learning Tech, which was when, Joe, was it April or May? Around that time, and we're at 333 followers. So that's the consistency. We started out doing 3 posts a week. We're now at 5 posts a week. We've got the email marketing as well, which is, you know, at least 1 email a week. We generally keep it to 1 email a week unless something special's happening. But it's the consistent messaging, the liking and commenting from the Free Spirits account on my posts and on other people's posts as well, and keeping it going. It's not a part-time job, keeping my social media going.
Yeah.
And the difference that's had versus my Go Ginger, it's absolutely massive. You got to strategize.
It's the strategy behind it and the structure, and learning from what you do as well, and thinking, okay, well, I've tried this didn't work so well, or I've tried that was great, okay, I'm going to do that again, and not be afraid to what I call test and tweak. So test something, tweak it, try again. And we've done that, Kim, really, haven't we, from the off?
Yeah.
Because it is so new. You kind of you have to just see how it goes. There's no right or wrong in it at all. There's best practice and bad practice, but everything in between is kind of up for grabs. So
yeah, because we're doing that test at the minute with moving from buffer scheduling to LinkedIn scheduling, just to see if there's and I've been doing that, what, a week, 2 weeks, but just to see over the space of a month, how many hits am I getting, how many likes, how many comments on the same type of post, because I haven't changed the type of post that I'm putting out. It's just changing the method of how it's being scheduled. But I mean, the thing is, if I don't get a lot of likes or a lot of comments, my impressions might still be really high. So even if something isn't being commented on or liked, people are still seeing it, and people are still, you know, watching or clicking through and whatnot.
And they can be useful, those metrics, but equally they're vanity metrics. If you're still getting inquiries, if you're getting the opportunities come in, and you're getting people message you, and there's still a trickle of activity around what you're doing, don't worry about the metrics too much. Don't get bogged down with them, because actually, from a mental health perspective, it can get a bit heavy going, a bit tough. Especially when it's you on your own as a freelancer, and you start thinking, oh, I didn't get as much likes as that person, and it could have just been you put it out the wrong time of day. And so, yeah, use those metrics as a guide to kind of try something else.
Yeah. And then we are at time. So thank you so much, Hayley. And thank
Pleasure.
you, everybody, for joining us this month.